Hello everybody and welcome back to the Digital Imaging channel. I'm Will and today we're going to talk about how we set you up for success by using our Milestone 1 proof of concept process. And digital conversion projects can be pretty simple, they can be difficult, they can be long, they can be short, they can have a lot of material, they can have just a few pieces of material, some records that need to get converted, but they all need to be set up in some way. And that's what our Milestone 1 process is all about. So we're going to describe that for you, go through the different phases, what it means for you, what it means for us, and how we're going to set you up to succeed. So first, what is a Milestone 1? So Milestone 1 is our internal term for the setup, creation, and the initial testing of your digital conversion project, scope of work, and the process flow. The full term is the Milestone 1 proof of concept, and we've just shortened it to M1. Internally, we just use M1 a lot. We'll say it to you if we're working with you. Say, oh yeah, the M1 is this, that, and the other. So that's what it means, and basically it's how we're going to create your project's process flow to deliver your digitization project from beginning to end. It was really created out of necessity because years ago, before my time, we did a pretty large conversion project, I think 1,500, 2,000 roles or so, before we had this M1 process in place. And we finished, got it to our client, and they said, hey, that's great, but it's not exactly what I thought I was getting, and we need to fix it. So we basically had to rescan, call it 2,000 roles. Not too good for us, and then it took longer to get to the client, and everything went well in the end, but it was a lot of rework for no reason. That's because we didn't have this Milestone 1 process. So that kind of kick-started us to say we need something in place to make sure that we're doing the project correctly early on so we don't have to do rework, and our clients and customers can get what they want and know they're getting what they want before we do the whole project and deliver it. So that's what the Milestone 1 is and why we created it. There are 3 phases to an M1, build, test, and refine, and I'll go into detail on each of those coming up. The first step in the Milestone process is the build phase, and that is the process flow creation. So what will happen is once we start a project with you, we're assuming that our sales rep or reps have already worked with you, created a scope of work, and now we're actually starting the project. We're going to take that scope of work and create a process flow unique to your project. Our project management team will create that process flow from scratch. They might have some references from other projects we've done in the past, but it's going to be a project for you with unique steps to your project. It's basically a process flow is a step-by-step method by which we're going to make your digital conversion project happen. So whatever the project is, paper scanning, microfilm scanning, digital to digital conversion, exporting images, whatever we need to do, we're going to put all those steps into the process flow, and all the ancillary steps related to those like indexing, QA, loading to our digital reel hosted platform, whatever it is, they'll be incorporated into that process flow. This step is one of the most time-consuming pieces of the entire M1 process because we're building it from scratch. Yes, we may have a project we've done that will be similar to yours that we can use as a reference. We may incorporate different pieces from other projects. We go, oh, we can use that. But we have to make it unique to your project, and your scope of work is going to be unique. So this is the most time-consuming because we're building the foundation to make the project successful. And what I'll show here is within that first step of building, this is our Unity system. This is where the process flow will reside. And basically our sales rep will take your scope of work, go into Unity, create a job order based on that scope of work, which will then get approved internally and sent to the project management team, who will use that job order to then figure out which steps need to be incorporated into your process flow. And what I'll show here is actually, this is a real process flow. We've mocked up the name so it doesn't actually show a customer, a real customer of ours, but this is an actual process flow and shows step by step what we do for this project. This was scanning about, it was like 1,200 rolls, 1,500 rolls, something like that, microfilm rolls. And basically you can see the entire process flow that had to be built, and it goes through stuff like, printing a roll label, creating a label image, keying the fields, creating XMLs for passing of frames, that's a QA portion, configuring the XML, adding roles to a text search, things of that sort. So every step of the process that these roles will go through, from scanning to indexing to upload to a system, whatever it is, are in this process flow. And within our Unity system, those bars are showing where each role is along the way. So you can see on the left the numbers here. So green means passing. So about 800 roles are in the configure role XML stage, and they're just going along just fine. About 450 roles or so are complete. Purple and red and yellow, those are usually exceptions or flags that the project manager will have to go investigate, say, why is this on hold? What's stopping this from moving forward? So we can track every single role along the entire project timeline. And this is just a high-level view of here's the entire process flow, here the aggregate number of roles. We can go in and see individual roles in more detailed pieces of Unity. I'm not going to show here, but we can track the project to the individual role. So that's pretty cool. So that's the build phase, and it's basically setting the foundation so that you can move into the test phase with the steps in place and think, okay, I'm going to test this hypothesis of what we think will work for your project. So next we're going to move into the test phase. Phase number 2 of the M1 process is the testing phase, and it's sample batch testing. So once we've created the process flow for you, like you saw in the build phase, testing involves using a small batch of your overall project material to run through the newly created process flow. The goal of the test phase is to make sure that all steps we're implementing are A, necessary, B, they work as we expect them to work and need them to work, and C, they allow us to deliver the results you're asking for. So again, it's based on the scope of work that you created with your project, your sales rep. And once the process flow is built, let's say you have 1,000 rolls of microfilm that you're going to get scanned. We'll take maybe 5 or 10 or so, depending on how many document types you have, how many variances of microfilm there are. And we'll start them from the very beginning, the first step, run them through the entire process flow to test and see if we're getting what we need to get. And then in the next phase, the refine phase, you'll actually get to take a look at that and see, oh yeah, this is what I want, or maybe you want to change something, or you realize something that wasn't apparent before. So that's the gist of the test phase, is just building the process, testing a small portion of the material to make sure it works within the process flow, and then moving on to the refine phase. Phase 3 of the M1 process is the refine phase, which includes the review and approval steps. So the refine phase is the portion of the M1 in which we're going to resolve any errors that we found during the build and test phases. And errors can be maybe a step in the process flow that we've created that needs to be adjusted based on the testing. Maybe it can be something that we found related to your project material that maybe doesn't fit within the scope of work. Or it could just be something that you realize, oh, I thought I wanted this, I actually don't, I want that. Those are all things that can be resolved during the review and approval steps. Basically, it gives us a chance to inform you of anything that we found that could make the project better, like changing steps or adjusting the scope of work a little bit to match or to get you to a better place than what was originally envisioned. It also gives you the chance to see what your final product's going to look like and give us the thumbs up that we can continue on with the rest of the project. So it's critical that this step is followed and we actually don't move on with projects until the approval is given for an M1, based on that issue I talked about earlier on in the video of doing about 2,000 rolls and having to rework it because it didn't align exactly with what the customer wanted, because we just got the material, did the project, delivered it, and oh, geez, I didn't think it was going to be that, and we kind of did a little whoopsie and then had to redo it. So the reviewing allows you to say, yes, that is what I want, and you can go forward with the project, here's my approval, or it could be, well, I kind of want to change a few things, let's talk about that. And it gives us the chance to say, hey, something came in during this test phase that is out of scope of work, we need to talk about this. So this is a very essential piece of the M1 process of showing you what you're going to get and making sure you give us the approval to move forward with the remainder of the project. This is not to say that there can't be new things that pop up once the approval is given. Let's say you're going to scan 1,000 roles and we do 2 or 5 of them during the test phase and get the approval for those. That's not to say the other 995 roles couldn't have issues that pop up, or some new document type comes in that's outside of scope of work that we need to talk about and tweak the process flow and adjust what we're doing. Of course that can happen, but that initial test batch, that small percentage of the project, at least gives us that approval of if everything goes as is planned and all the materials exactly as we think it is, then we're good to go. The project will be great. You'll get what you saw in the M1. So that's the refine phase that includes the review and approval steps, and that's the last phase of the M1 process, and absolutely essential to making sure you get what you want for your project. All right, that's it about the M1 Milestone 1 proof of concept process for today. Now that you know what our M1 process is and what you can expect for your project when you work with us, we look forward to hearing from you about your digital conversion project and how we can help. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.